Yo, what's going on, fellas? It's your main man Six Paths Dunga back again with another video. So a few of you guys requested me to watch this video about Boruto's true ending, as well as give my own thoughts on how I think the Boruto manga should end. I don't think I've ever talked about this on my channel before, so this will be a good opportunity to knock out a reaction and get out some little thoughts I have on here or there about how the manga should go, because I have been thinking about it. Not gonna lie. And some people may not like what I have in store for the ending of the manga, but you know, that's okay. At the end of the day, that's my opinion. I already said from the jump, I don't want this manga to end the same way Naruto did. Let's say Kawaki is Sasuke in this instance. I don't need them to fight, make up, and then everything's back to normal. Boruto gets his life back. Naruto and Hinata are freed from the Daikokuten dimension. Something's gotta give. Somebody's life gotta change permanently from this. And I guess I'll just save my thoughts for when we get into the video. So, before we get into it, Hiromaki, he is a great content creator. I'm going to leave the link to his channel down below in the description. So you know what? Make sure you guys go visit his channel. Go leave a like on this video just like how I did. At the current time, the video is at 259 likes. So maybe we can get that up to 300, you know what I mean? Go tell him that we reacted to his video in the comment section and show some love. And that's pretty much it. So reminder, if you guys enjoy videos and want to see more like this in the near future, just leave a like. It's the fastest way to let me know you guys enjoy this type of content. But without further ado, let's hop right into it.
Boruto has changed the timeline once again. This time Kawaki had his limiters removed long before he was supposed to, which allowed him to save Boruto's life. This implies that Boruto is able to
that panel was
his
crazy.
Destiny to die, but is that really true? Well, I believe that Boruto will die, but at the hands of someone else. And it all goes back to this future scene revealed in chapter 75. You see, many to this day still...
People don't know, going back to this scene right here, it hasn't been revealed until chapter 13 of TBV VORTEX, of course, that there was a future where Kawaki killed Boruto and Sarada. And if we go back, right, because I think this was in like chapter 75-ish? This was before it happened. So this was when Boruto had that little vision of the future, and then the same thing happened a few chapters later. So yeah, I think this was like chapter 75. And this never happened. This scene right here never happened. Kawaki never entered V2 state like you see right here on the screen. So this had to be because of a timeline change, right? This is the future where Boruto gets killed by Kawaki, as Koji tells us later on. Something happened between chapter 75 and around chapter 78 that saved Boruto from Kawaki, but we just don't know what it was. And there's a chance we could know what it is later on in the story, like they might tell us, but there's also a chance they may not. Like when Koji tells us that there was a chance that Naruto would have been killed by Ishiki, and basically he would have been fully resurrected through Kawaki's body. We don't know what happened that changed that timeline. It could have been Baryon mode, maybe not, but we don't know what exactly changed that timeline to get the more favorable outcome. I don't know if I'm gonna say Boruto was gonna die like Hiromaki is saying, but I will say I don't see Boruto getting his life back. I just don't see it happening. But that's just something to think about. In the comment section below, comment down what you think happened between chapter 75 and chapter 78 to 79 to change this outcome right here. What do you think happened to cause Kawaki not to kill Boruto? I used to think it was the intervention with Sarada coming into the fight, but according to Koji, in the future where Boruto died, Sarada was also there and she died. So it might not be that. So let me know what you guys think.
You see, many to this day still believe that the future Momoshiki saw didn't come to fruition, and that is true to some extent. Some believe that the future was changed through actions unknown to the audience, or maybe there was some
I just said that. Yeah.
When the truth is a lot simpler. It wasn't that the future changed from what it was meant to be, but more so that it hasn't happened as yet. And I know that some of you guys are probably saying, well, kiddo, how is that possible when those events took place with the younger versions of those characters?
Yeah.
Is this some alternate universe
nonsense? Yeah, how did that happen?
And to that I say, no, definitely not. This more so applies to just one of those future scenes, that being the one with full OTSUTSUKI form Kawaki. You see, this one panel, and believe me when I say it's this one panel, is why everyone believes that the future changed and Momoshiki's prophecy didn't come to fruition, despite all the other scenes playing out exactly as they were depicted. It seems like a massive oversight on IKEMOTO's part, or the future itself did change. What if it plays into the nature of the character's abilities? I mentioned this before, but the difference between Momoshiki's future sight and Kashin Koji's prescience is that while Koji is able to see all possible futures, Momoshiki is able to see the future.
And I think the main difference between Koji's Shinjutsu and Momoshiki's foresight ability is that, like he said, Koji's able to see multiple outcomes, but Momoshiki is able to see one direct future. But I still think he's only able to see the future of one person. Like, I don't think he'll be able to see the general future, just the future of one person he's focusing on with his Byakugan. So let's say when he was focusing on Naruto, he was able to see his future, probably him being stripped of Kurama, and then he said that statement to Naruto. But also when he was looking at Boruto, he was able to see his future. And he was mainly focusing on that future for the entirety of the series. If we look at all the futures that Momoshiki's seen, and I'm gonna put it up on the screen right here so you guys can see, almost all of these fragments happen in Boruto's point of view. Sarada telling Mitsuki that Boruto is here, and then we have Team 10 talking to Boruto, and then Mitsuki talking to him, even the Kawaki one that he's talking about. So it's very likely that Momoshiki's power is strictly limited to one person. And we could see he was actually confused as to why Sasuke was helping Boruto. So maybe there's a limit of how far he could see into the future as well, or we can go with my first assumption that his foresight ability is limited. It could be that the timeline changed yet again, which is why he was so surprised when Sasuke saved Boruto. I mean, he said it wasn't supposed to go like this. Also, he didn't see Sarada's point of view. Since he was so focused on Boruto's future, he couldn't see Sarada talking with Sasuke and that changing the future. But if we take into account that the future where Boruto died didn't happen prior to this, then the timeline change to make sure that didn't happen could also affect this outcome. So it's very confusing when you think about it like that. Time is a very difficult concept to grasp, but you never know. One small thing can throw off the whole timeline. It could be that easy.
Now, this might seem contradictory to what took place in the manga itself, since Momoshiki's prophecy seemingly didn't come to fruition. But what if I told you that it did? What if I told you that Momoshiki never saw a future where Boruto lost everything? What he saw were events that could have led to that future. Now, to understand what I mean by this, because this might seem a bit contradictory, because I just said that Koji is the one that sees possible futures, so how is Momoshiki also seeing possibilities? Well, that's because the word could in this context takes on a different meaning. This makes perfect sense once you understand the concept of why, which is very prevalent in Boruto's manga.
I mean, like I just said, Momoshiki can only see the future in fragments. Koji could see visions of how these possible outcomes are going to play out. And then we take into account of how surprised he was when Sasuke helped Boruto. Momoshiki didn't see the future play out like Koji can. He can only see broken up, motionless scenes from the future. He even said it himself. He could only see tableaus, or however you say that word. But basically, by definition, it's just motionless figures representing a scene from a story. So it's just like pictures, That's it. So we take that into account. There'd be no way he can actually see Boruto lose his life. It was only a prediction based on these pictures, like Hiromaki said.
This refers to the underlying purpose or belief that drives a person to do something. It's very simple. And this is very important because it's the driving force behind why Momoshiki thought the future would play out in his favor. It wasn't because he saw a future where it happened, but more so because he couldn't understand why it wouldn't happen. That is why after everything played out in chapter 80, I believe, he said to himself that it wasn't supposed to go like this.
Yeah.
Why would Boruto not despair and turn his body over to him when he has nothing
Damn.
left?
If
Why
you
would
think
he
about
continue
it, his
fighting?
power kind of
Why would
sucks,
Sasuke
though.
help Boruto for his daughter's sake, even though he perceives him as an enemy? The concept of why is a constant, and that's because, and this might sound cheesy, but he simply doesn't understand the concept of love and its logic-defined properties.
It makes
he sees
sense.
everything through a binary process. So if everyone believes Boruto killed the seventh and he's now the outsider, obviously he would lose everything. But of course, that didn't happen because he couldn't see beyond the point he couldn't understand.
It's crazy because he claims he knows all Shinjutsu, but he really doesn't understand how it works. And he's right, Momoshiki doesn't understand love, because if he did understand love, he would know there's a chance that Sarada might not be affected by omnipotence, or maybe Sumire, if he knew all so much about Shinjutsu. I'm just assuming the weakness of omnipotence is love. So if it's not love, this point is gonna sound stupid, but I'm like 85% sure the reason why Sarada and Sumire are not affected by omnipotence is because of love. And because Momoshiki missed that big factor playing a role in that, love became his downfall.
Understanding that the future Momoshiki saw didn't change is very important to this new theory that this panel hasn't happened as yet. To put it into context, Boruto saw 6 scenes from the future. The first one was the Jonin in the forest saying he couldn't have gone that far yet, don't let him escape. This then played out in chapter 79, I believe, when Kawaki manifested in the forest after his chakra almost ran out from overusing Tsukinai Kona. The guard said the same thing. He couldn't have gotten very far yet. Don't let him escape. This was from Kawaki's perspective, which is very important, so keep that in mind. Now, the second scene was of the Akage monument, which could have been from Boruto's perspective, someone else's, or just an overhead view of the day. This makes sense since we just established that Boruto is able to view future events from the perspective of others as well, which is also then backed up by this next scene where Sarada tells Mitsuki that she found him over here. This one played out in chapter 79, which shows Sarada running alongside Mitsuki when she says this, which means that Boruto saw this from Mitsuki's perspective. The fourth scene with Team 10 played out as well, and so did the fifth one with Mitsuki entering Sage Mode. The only one that didn't happen is the one with Kawaki looking down on someone in his horn state with blood seemingly splattered on his face. Now, a panel similar to this one did play out in chapter 78, I believe, with Kawaki looking down at Boruto after he blocked his attack. The difference, of course,
No
and
horn.
it's a very big one, is that there is no blood, and neither is Kawaki in his horn state. So while the positioning of the characters is very similar to some extent, this clearly isn't meant to be this panel, and neither would it validate the theory that Sarada simply changed the future since this happened long before she appeared. Now, some would say that Momoshiki simply saw the possible future where Kawaki killed Boruto and Sarada atop the Akage monument that Koji mentioned in chapter 13. But that doesn't make sense since Momoshiki saw the events that took place after omnipotence with Boruto himself, which is why he thought that he would be able to take over his body. So if that's not the case, what exactly happened to this panel? Did the future change, or is it that it hasn't happened?
Like I said, something happened between here and when Boruto lost his life. That changed the timeline. And I do believe just because the visions that Momoshiki showed us happened after omnipotence doesn't really mean he can only perceive events that happened during that time. Like, this could very well be the future that Boruto died in, easily. But then again, it might not be. I'm gonna say this might have to be something that IKEMOTO clears up on in a later chapter, just because it's so damn obvious. Like, come on, bro, you can't hide this. Even if it was a little mistake, you can't hide this. Like, we see it. Everybody that reads Boruto is gonna see this. Especially if they animate it the same way too, it's gonna be a question mark forever. They're gonna have to confirm that this scene is from when Kawaki killed Boruto the second time.
Kawaki arrived on the battlefield in his old clothing, the same tattered jacket and undershirt that he had in part 1. And of course, had in this specific scene. Now, of course, Kawaki is 3 years older, I suppose, but his facial structure hasn't really changed, especially
His hair got
from
longer.
that perspective. The only real difference is that his hair is a bit longer than it was before, but he could simply get a haircut and the scene would line up perfectly. So, what if, and I know this is a stretch, but what
No.
if this panel was always from further down the timeline, when Kawaki can once again access his horn state? Because at this point in the story, it doesn't seem like he's able to, which would explain why he didn't use it against Jura, despite knowing that he's stronger than his current form. It could be the case that he can't enter the form whenever he wants to at this point in time, but he gains the ability to do so in the future, thus this panel right here. I mean, Ikemoto didn't need to have Kawaki change into his part 1 gear for this fight, so why did he? Well, it could be a hint towards the theory that this panel still hasn't happened as yet, and Boruto's life is still in danger. Though it could also be the case that Boruto is seeing this from the perspective of someone else, which we already established was possible using the flash forward scenes of Kawaki and Sarada.
Yeah, if that's the case, then Momoshiki is able to see years upon years into the future. And then he would also probably see Boruto losing his life and then gain that mental strength back. So I'm just saying Momoshiki would see himself fail in the future if that was the case. And it could be just pictures. You can literally see the future just from pictures and see that you failed. he might have been able to see the Shinju and everything. And the true meaning behind Boruto losing everything was omnipotence. It's been confirmed in the manga. But it does line up. Since Kawaki has changed back into his part 1 gear, if he gets a haircut, I guess it does, you know, line up with that picture. And then you could say, yeah, Boruto does die in the future. But I see it a different way. I don't see Boruto dying in the future. I think, if anything, Boruto is going to convince Kawaki to release Naruto and Hinata. But he's not going to return home, because I still believe omnipotence is absolute. Once casted over the world, there is no way to bring it back. That's just my personal opinion. Now, the story can go different ways, and I do have theories you can find of me saying or talking about different ways omnipotence can possibly be reversed, but the chances of that happening is extremely low. So I'm saying, if that was to be the case, the path I see Boruto taking is just to buy into that role of being Shadow Hokage permanently. Just like Sasuke. He wanted to be just like Sasuke, right? So he's gonna have to take on that role of Sasuke even more than he had to. Because Sasuke could come home once in a while. Boruto may not be able to come home ever. Just because of the fact that omnipotence is so strong, you forget over time that Boruto was actually a good guy. So whatever you learned about omnipotence, whether your memories are being tampered with, you're gonna forget everything over time because the technique is just that strong.
So maybe this isn't Kawaki killing Boruto, but instead Konohamaru, Mitsuki, or maybe even Sarada herself. The possibilities are somewhat endless. Though if I was a betting man, I'd put my money on Boruto due to the plethora of death flags he has in the series. The funniest one, of course, being the one we got in chapter 700 of Naruto's manga, which shows him dangling from a rope that he used to descend upon the stone faces, which from this point of view made it seem as if he offed himself. Now, obviously, this is more so meant to be a funny gesture, but given the theme of sacrifice surrounding Boruto's character, you
I don't know about that.
as a bit of
Hold on, let me go back real quick. Oh man, wow! Yeah, that's a funny one. I wouldn't be able to put that together. That's crazy. If he wants to make that a point, sure, go ahead.
Now, obviously, this is more so meant to be a funny gesture, but given the theme of sacrifice surrounding Boruto's character, you could see this as a bit of foreshadowing. You also have the most famous one, of course, with Kawaki telling Boruto that he will send him where he sent the seventh, which was seen as a death flag for the longest time, and the same thing with Momoshiki's prophecy about him losing everything. I mean, the entire Vesta arc itself was about how Boruto will cease to exist due to Momoshiki's karma, which got progressively worse with each bit of new information. Then there's Sasuke literally asking Boruto if he's willing to die for the village, which he showed to be the case by helping them in the battle versus Ishiki. And of course, there's many more, including the countless statements saying that he was going to die at the hands of JURA, which I covered in detail in this video.
And there's actually a lot more too. I also went over a lot of like hypothetical situations or statements I heard in the manga that kind of insinuated that Boruto could die in the future. Like, there's a lot in part 1, but there's also a few in TBV VORTEX that many people might have missed. Starting in like chapter 3 when Kawaki asked Boruto, did he come back to Konoha to die? And then Boruto replied to something like, yeah, dying in Konoha isn't bad, but right now it has something to do. Or how about something a little bit more convincing, which happened in chapter 6 right after Boruto escaped Mitsuki, which Boruto says something along the lines of him swearing to rescue everybody who was turned into trees like Sasuke and everybody else, and then he just said, never mind, I'll be back. I mean, we don't really know what he meant by that, but there can be a few like theories. Maybe he's already thinking about himself not coming back. It could be him of just trying to think of something positive to say, or it could be as simple as him just saying, yeah, I'll be back here later. Like, I'm coming back to Konoha. It could be something like that. Like, everything he just mentioned is just a bunch of vague statements that could or could not come back to mean something in the future. And you can find that in every manga, right? Every single manga, there's vague statements that tell a story, or statements that can't really be put into place until the end of the series. But I can tell you this right now, none of the statements Boruto said have told us or gave us the feeling that Boruto will get his life back. I'm just saying that right now. So don't get your hopes up.
And given the fact that he also doesn't believe in retreading ground already covered by Naruto, as it wouldn't be interesting to him, he might take this to its logical conclusion.
That's true.
Which is, of course, Boruto kicking the bucket. But, I could be wrong, and I know a lot of you guys hate that idea, but it's an idea that's out there.
So it's already confirmed that Ikemoto wants the story to end way differently than Naruto. And I definitely believe that is going to be the case. So right there, it's confirmed that there's no brotherly, you good, bro. Man, I made a mistake. Let's just settle our differences and let's move on with our life. Boruto gets his life back. Everything goes back to normal. No, it's not gonna be like that. So yet again, amazing video by Kirumaki. Very impressed with this one. I haven't been revisiting part 1 in a while. So it's like, ever since like chapter 15 or so of Tuba Vortex, I really stopped going back to part 1 to read it. I need to go back and see these hidden gems because obviously there's a lot and maybe I can get a video or 2 out of them. Good video by Kirumaki. Like I said before, the link to his channel will be down below in the description. So go check him out if you have the time. Also, let me know how you think the Boruto manga will end. Is Boruto gonna get his life back and everything's gonna go smoothly, even though Ikemoto just said it wasn't? Do you think Boruto's gonna lose his life and be forced into a life as a rogue shinobi forever? Do you think Boruto's gonna die? Kawaki's gonna die? Hey, let me know in the comment section of what you guys may think. I'm gonna have a lot of different opinions. I know I am, just because I know a lot of you guys want the story to end differently. But anyway, that's really it. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like this in the near future, make sure you guys drop that like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the post notifications so you know whenever I upload or go live for chapter spoilers. And until my next one, I'm gonna see all you boys and girls later, and I'm out. Peace.